welcome back to HB Ministries, a ministry for you to believe, behold, and become all God's created you to be in whatever season of life. Happy September. For all of those that are my lifers that have been here, and you know that we have some sort of theme every single month and we go through it. I also want to welcome everybody new. What we are going to do for September is we are going to go through a theme called The Way to Wisdom, and we are going to study all of Proverbs, but each Proverb's gonna have a theme that we study. Here's the calendar right here. So you can see in this calendar that we're gonna study a different theme every single day. You also know that on Fridays, I do a live study, and the notes are provided to you through a newsletter that is sent out late Thursday night. Now, if you want to get this newsletter, I highly recommend that you jump over to heatherbaxter.com right here, and you will see right up above here, it says to subscribe here. That way, when I shoot the newsletter out, everybody that's in the mailing gets the newsletter. In that newsletter, we'll have the theme of what we are studying in our Bible study on Friday Live, and your notes will be available in a PDF file for you to click and print out. I highly recommend that you keep these notes in a war binder. Now, what is a war binder? Few different things. So I'm going to tell you about your journaling war binder, but I'm going to also tell you about your binder that is going to look something like a recipe book. So every time we're learning something, and whether I give you a PDF during the week about a prayer, or sometimes I send a blog with a little bit more of teachings, you can print those out and then start to make categories in your war binder, and then go ahead and hole punch and put those notes in there. So if you were to look at my file cabinet over here to the right, I have an actual file cabinet, and I have it filed according to prayers, faith, how to handle marriage problems, how to trust again, how to forgive, how to get through shame, counseling ideas and topics. All of those things are in my cabinet, and I just have them filed. If a friend is in need, or a daughter is in need, or anyone, I can go to my file cabinet, pull it out. One that I pull out all the time is how to understand the will of God in 7 steps. So a lot of people will say, how do I know if God's speaking to me? And I'll say, well, the first thing you should do is practice these 7 things for 1 week. But I tend to teach on this a couple times a year because I think it is so important. So maybe I'll put that in one of my future videos and just do an up-to-date one. But it's how to understand the will of God in 7 steps, and that's really important. Okay, sidebar. The next thing that I want you to know is that after you file those notes for our Friday study, then Saturday is a journaling day. And a lot of people say, well, what does it mean to journal? You are going to be given journal prompts at the end of this video. These journal prompts are to help you in every single day's lesson. So we're digging in to Proverbs. Once you study the proverb, then go ahead and ask yourself these journal prompts. At the bottom of this video, I will have a PDF file for you with these journal prompts on them. So that way you can laminate it and stick it right in your journal, or you can hole punch it and put it in your journal, and you know what to be asking yourself every single day. This is something that we used in Bible college as we learned to study God's word and meditate on it. So I just want to hand it over to you. I'll review it briefly in a second, and then you will have it. So make it fun, make it pretty, and keep it forever. But it's how you meditate and journal on scripture. So you'll be using this all through the month of September with each verse we do. So come on Sunday, where it says journal day in the calendar, utilize that day to reflect, because I know it's hard to do that every single day, depending on what your lifestyle is. So Saturday's like the catch-up day. It's the grace day. It's the day to journal. Now, in my recent live video on how to journal, I'm also going to post that below. Here is the link right here. In that video, I also give free 100 prompts to journaling. So if one day you just kind of want to randomly take one of these prompts and run with it, I'm giving you those prompts. I utilize this. These prompts also are in my personal writing journal, because sometimes if I'm traveling or driving in a car or flying, I pull out a prompt and I write. So it's just something that I use. I haven't gotten through all 100, but my goal is to get through all of those 100 prompts. Those are very different, those prompts, versus the spiritual journaling that we're going to do every day, but it's fun and I'll include it in there. All right, so let's go ahead and kickstart our September calendar. And so today we're going to talk about wisdom versus folly. And I have the verses you can see here. Right there on September 1st, those were the verses that you were to read. And I pulled out a few things. Now, what Bible do I read from? I love my NIV Bible, but I also, let me grab her. Hang on, she's right in front of me. This is my NIV Bible. You probably see her a lot through my Bible flip throughs, but this is the Bible that is sitting in my girl cave. And when I get there in the morning, I usually open her up first. So she's an oldie but a goodie. And I'll open and I do all my highlighting and everything in this Bible. Then what I tend to do, it's just something I do, I have a notepad and I take scribbles. I call them Heatherisms. I just jot stuff down that is speaking to me. I have a few videos on how I do Bible journaling and how I actually skim the verse. I will also put a link to that below so you can actually see how I open my Bible, how I read it. What do I do? What do I break down? How do I circle words? What words do I circle? Why do I circle those words? I just have kind of like a rhythm, whatever works for you, but that is how I do it. So I'm going to save that video and put it below if you're curious, but if not, I'm going to kind of go off that same pattern right now and kind of bring you a little devotional, which I'm hoping to do every day or every other day through the month of September for you. Now, remember, the very end of the week when I do those live studies, I'm going to bring you something based off of what we studied all week. I'm going to zoom in on one thing and pull it out. That way, everything has a routine and everything is like-minded. We're kind of focusing on the same thing that has to do with wisdom and has to do with the book of Proverbs, or maybe particularly one thing that we studied that week. Okay, so this week today we were asked to read Proverbs 1:7 through 9, chapter 2, 1 through 12, and chapter 18, verse 2. Now I zoomed in on Proverbs 1:7 through 9, and I took notes on chapter 2, 1 through 12. And I want to share a little bit of this with you. If you want, you can journal on a piece of paper, journal in your notebook, and I want you to see what jumped out to me. Now, I want you to understand that the number one thing that we are going to get out of all of September is to recognize that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The beginning of knowledge for your finances, the beginning of knowledge for God's destiny for your life, the beginning of knowledge with how you do relationships, any critical situation you're in, the beginning of knowledge for your health, beginning of knowledge for you emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I mean, the beginning of knowledge is the anchor to everything in your life. And so I am going to run home with that theme all of September. Why it is so important for you to be a wise woman. And I love this because it says, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. And I put down here in caps, don't be a fool. Some days you just need to wake up and say, Lord, thank you for your grace and mercy today. Please don't let me be a fool. Let me be open to your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Now that is a prayer that I pretty much pray every morning when I'm laying in bed. My alarm clock goes off at 8 o'clock. It goes off to worship music. And at that point, I will just do a breath prayer. We talked a lot about those breath prayers last month in the study of Nehemiah, so you can go check that out. That's all still there. But I did a breath prayer and it'll say, Lord, just give me knowledge, wisdom, and discernment today with whatever crosses my path. Super sweet and simple, but to the point. Knowledge and wisdom. So now that I'm studying Proverbs, we're going to kind of hone in on what we need to listen to and how we need to pay attention to his wisdom that is in the law. I also put, listen, my daughter. Now in the Bible, it says son, but you could put your name in there. Listen, Heather. Listen, my daughter. Listen, my son. To your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. And I think about that too also as I'm teaching my children. So if any of you are there and you're raising teenagers or younger kids, know that every day that you instruct them and teach them, whether they're rebellious or not, you can pray that the Lord will continue to speak to them personally and make them open to his knowledge and to his wisdom. And sometimes you just keep doing what you know is right and keep the rhythm and it'll all catch up later. It may not all make sense for them right now, and you may be going through a very rocky stage, but continue to do what God's called you to do. Continue to teach, continue to give wisdom, continue to give instruction, and the Lord will bring everything together. They'll realize garland of grace for their head, and like I said, a chain adorned to their neck. It just takes time. Now, the other part that I wanted to really hone in on is chapter 2, 1 through 12. This was the one I actually liked a lot. What I found myself doing in this verse was circling all the action words in the Bible. I don't know why, but I sat there today and I circled. If you look at chapter 2 with me, I circled accept, store up, turn your ear, apply, call out for help, search. So I circled all the action words that I could see. And then I noticed that the verse did this little turn, but it connected with all the action. And it went on and said, he protects the way. Wisdom enters the heart. Knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. So there is a direct connection. You do A, you receive B. Okay, so here is what's required. Here are the promises. Here's what you get. And so I feel like that we're going to understand that a lot in Proverbs, that the Lord wants us to search for his wisdom and search and get to know him. And then he is going to bless you, make your soul sweet. Wisdom's going to enter you. Wisdom's going to light up your way. You're going to begin to hear the Lord speak to you. So those were the things that really jumped out to me today. And that's really what spoke to me. So now I'm going to tell you what the journal prompts look like. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you some of my journals that I've used in the past, because that was also a question that some of you have asked, which journal prompts. So again, you don't need to take notes on this. I'm just going to briefly go over this with you, but this is what I want you to remember when you're doing these verses every single day. Number one, what has God revealed to you about himself, which could be his name, his character, his nature in the verse? So I'm just going to give you an example. If I was studying today's, I would know right now that God is wisdom, that God is truth, that God is going to give me the understanding. His nature is to teach me. His nature is to lead me. He is my teacher. He is my guider. He wants to help me receive all joy in this world. So that's his nature. Number two, what has God revealed to you about his purpose? His will, his plans, his desire, his activity around you, his assignment to you, his goals and his objectives. Now, not all of those things may speak to you every day, but one might jump out in that verse. So look at that. Really look at that master list and begin to write on that. Like, what is God revealing to you about his purpose? Now, today, he revealed to me very much that I needed to understand that his activity is all around my parenting and with my kids, even if they're in a season where they're not appreciating his wisdom and adorning their head with garland and wearing it around their neck. But yet his activity is there, and what I'm called to do is be the mom with the assignment he gave me in this season, and be teaching it. Because remember, it said in verse 2, listen, my daughter, to your father's instructions and do not forsake. I still need to be instructing. So that jumped out to me today. Number 3. Now again, this is just, you're going to get this list and you can look at the verse and kind of pull out. You don't have to do all the questions, but this is what it looks like. This is how I'll do mine in the morning. Number 3, what has God revealed to you about his ways? How he acts, what he does, how he responds in given circumstances, the kind of person he uses, the ways he involves persons he uses in his work, or the ways he goes about accomplishing his purposes. Now, I loved the last part, the ways he goes about accomplishing his purposes, because if you can see today, when we accept and we store up and we turn our ear and when we search, wisdom enters us. He gives us wisdom. He protects us. So he is a protector. And so this is the kind of person he is. This is how he accomplishes his purposes in our life. But we have to step up to the plate and do what we're called to do. And so that's kind of what I looked at when I was thinking about wisdom. Number 5, what scripture has God used to speak to you about himself, his purpose, and his ways? What really spoke to you the most today? Like, what jumped out of everything you read the most? Again, I have to go back to listen to my daughter and to your father's instruction or mother's instruction. And I just feel like God's reminding me to still be that instructor no matter what. Now, I'm in a like interesting point in my life now because my kids are all older. Before the age of 18, when I laid down a rule and I gave an instruction, there was really no ifs, ands, or buts. However, now, if I'm going to share an instruction or share something, I may say something like, this is what you should do. However, I feel like God is telling me now, this is time for me to pull back and still give instruction, but they can act on it. And they have to learn that based on the way that they apply and search for wisdom and listen to my instruction is going to be how they receive knowledge and pleasantness to their soul and pleasantness to their life. If I could light up their whole life and keep everything in control, I would love that. And that is my nature, is to try to control that, but I have to let go. So I may not, somebody could be living close to me and say, wow, are you letting your kids do that? I mean, I cannot believe it. No, this is the season where they have to learn. I've taught them pretty much everything I can think of from the days that they were little. And I'm thanking God that he got a hold of my heart very young. My kids were very, very little. So the instruction has been in this home since they've been babies. And they know. But there comes a time where they're going to test their own waters and they're going to test their own faith. And I can still instruct. And there's times where I'll feel like I shouldn't have done that as a mother, but I'm not hard on myself anymore because I know that my integrity is on my I wear it on my sleeve. My heart is on my sleeve, and they know that. And I think now it's time for me to kind of let go, but I still have to give instruction. So this wisdom really applied to me today. Number 6, it says, what particular person or concern has God given you a burden to pray for? Again, my children. That was my concern when reading today. What has he guided you to pray for this person or concern? Again, that my kids would acknowledge his truth and want to live according to his ways. So these were things that I was being moved to journal in. Like I said, Proverbs chapter 2 jumped out the most to me. It may not have been what jumped out to you. Number 7, what has God done through circumstances that has given you a sense of his timing or direction concerning any aspect of his will? Okay, that's a lot. And I'm not going to go off on that, but the more that you journal and you stay in his word for the year, you're going to watch his activity move in your life. So this whole pandemic and the situations that we have walked through as a family in 2019 to 2020, actually being home right now as a family has been a huge blessing. I'm looking at how God is using this all for his purposes, that everybody's home and keeping an eye on each other. We have accountability right now, which is a lot better than going to colleges. And that's just for us personally. That's me personally. I can see where God's hands on everything since last November. And if I was to answer this question according to different characters in my life and my marriage, it could be different. But whatever is like the most important right now, the front burner, I would have to, I answer that way, because sometimes in your planner, and I'll show you this in a second, I have different categories. So one verse may have me journaling about that category, and I might, like really zoom in on that. Like, for example, there was one daughter in particularly that I zoomed in today's study. And so that's how it goes. You just kind of go where you feel led. Number 8 says, what word of guidance or truth do you sense God has spoken to you through another believer? Has he spoke to you through another believer? Now, this is key, because a lot of times God will confirm something that you're reading through another believer, whether it be me speaking to you or you listening to a faith-based message on YouTube or your church messages or whatever, or even a friend that's a believer. A lot of times confirmation comes through that. So if you're reading a scripture and then somebody said something, that's confirmation. A lot of times I'll write that down right away, because I'll be like, ooh, somebody just said something, and it's either, ooh, step back a little bit and think about that, Heather, or yes. And God is actually confirming through people that I can move forward. So that's something to be watching too. Number 9, what adjustment is God leading you to make in your life? Now, of course, for me, it was definitely to still be the mother that instructs, but also to pull back and allow my kids to use what I know they have stored up, but they have to lean on it. So a little bit of, I want to see the wisdom. I want to see them walk out the wisdom. Mom can't make it happen every day. And so, you got to step out, and sometimes your kids got to fall, and sometimes there's got to be mistakes made until they really realize, wait a minute, God is real, and he's what's going to sustain me, and I need to learn to do this, because that's exactly what happened to me. And frankly, I didn't figure that out until I was about 25 years old. So God reminded me I was doing a whole lot worse in some cases. And believe it or not, I didn't come from a background of a family of a mother that prayed for me or really talked about the things of God. I had great parents, but I didn't come from that background. So God reminded me, you've given your kids this. So just trust and pull back and allow them to navigate and allow things to happen. You can't make them do what's right all the time. They'll figure it out. And that's something that really jumped out. So when I'm talking about what adjustment is God leading me to make in my life, this is how this verse spoke to me. Number 10, what acts of obedience have you taken this week? What acts of obedience do you know God is wanting you to take? So those are some things that you can answer in regards to what you're studying. Maybe it's going to be in regards to how you're setting up your quiet time to search for wisdom and gain wisdom. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. Remember, we are all in a different spiritual place. We all come from different spiritual backgrounds. Some are baby Christians that are just walking into this, and some of you might have been Christians for so long that you became kind of lukewarm, and now you're coming back again. Or some of you are really out there in serving and got ministry and dreams and goals. I mean, so we're all over. But God's going to use this to speak to us all in our seasons and give us wisdom in our seasons. So again, this list right here is going to help you. These questions are going to help you understand and review God's activity in your life. So they're going to help you gain your revelation for the day. And you're going to watch that as you consistently journal, you can do your weekly review on Saturday and just kind of look at everything. And maybe you're going to journal a little bit different about your weekly review, which I talk about in that video all about spiritual journaling, which I highly recommend you check out, which was last week's live video. So this prompt is available for you in a PDF form right below this video. Go ahead and Xerox that, tuck it away in your planner. Now, before I end, I want to show you a couple ways of journaling. I have a lot of videos on my channel on how to journal and what my war binders look like. Go look at those, but those are so old. Honestly, I think some of them can be almost 7 years old. I got to do a new one. But right now, this is what I keep my planner in, and I have my daily schedule. Everything is in here. So basically my schedule for the week is in here. And then if you turn to my calendar, it'll have all of, this is August. I'm setting up my September right now, ladies. I have all of the verses that we are going to study. They are labeled down there, and then I cross it off. Now, where do I do my journaling? I do my journaling in a whole separate notebook, and I actually don't have this down here. It's up next to my bedside, but it's just a plain notebook that I'm writing in page by page by page by page right now. That's how I feel led to do my journaling right now. It changes. Now, last year, I was using this. This is called a traveler's notebook, which I absolutely love. I might go back to this in 2021, but what this is inside of here. Now this is spectacular. I should do a whole entire vlog on this, but you can order these little side books. They look like this. Let me take one out. There's little rubber bands in a traveler notebook you can put them in, but they're little books like this. Okay, I would have one and it would be labeled maybe me personal. Then I would have another one of these for my children, and I would space out the pages, maybe a couple for my children. And then you can also get one that is a calendar. So it looks like a calendar, and you can put that in and fill all your verses in like so, which I've done in the past. And so it's only for all of your Bible verses. So this again is just your war binder. So this is where you get all your verses and your calendar. So you can just order a plain calendar for 2020 or 2021. And then you can order the plain pieces of paper however you want. And you can see that I would just sticker it up, and this is how I would do my journaling based on that. But each book meant something different. For example, this one was all the Bible verses that I was studying. So it says Bible. So whatever I was studying, I would go through that, and I would go through so many of these books, but these books were only like $3 on, I think it was Paper and Co. I'll leave the link below. Again, I have a video on this, and you could go there and check out that video where all of this is on. But again, this is just the war binder. You put all your books in there, and then I would just go ahead and keep it like that. So this was one that I absolutely loved. I plan on going back to this in 2021 because right now this is more of my work journal planner. It has my verses in it. I kind of like that too because I like to be able to go, oh, what's today's verse, and have it right here, which I probably still will always use my work journal, and I'll still have the verses in here because if I'm on the go, I like to look them up. But as far as having my personal spiritual war binder, that worked out perfect. This separate thing was awesome. This year, I was writing the verses in here, and then I was just keeping a big old journal and writing every day the things that I was talking to you about in the journal prompts, because I had more room in a lot of lined paper. So those are just a couple ways of how I do it. This is one of those binders that I was telling you about, a 6-ring binder. And you could use one of these whole things and set it up just like this, but just hole punch paper. So there's a lot of ways to do it. But yeah, this is with me all the time. So I hope this helped you for our kickoff of September. We are going to have fun. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it is not. Once you get used to those spiritual prompts, you're going to get used to what you're going to want to zoom in on off those prompts every single day. And you're going to get used to how to write, how to talk, how to pull things out, how to have an ear for wisdom. What is God trying to show you? So happy September. I'm excited. If you're new here, leave me a comment below. Let me know that you just crossed this channel and you're excited to join, and just say hello. And don't forget to subscribe to heatherbaxter.com so you can get your newsletter coming out this Thursday for this week, Friday's live teaching. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. Otherwise, I am so glad you're here. I love you all. I have such a passion for teaching women and educating women to lean into God's knowledge. And so I am so happy that this ministry space is available for all of us to believe, behold, and become all God's created us to be. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Love ya. Bye-bye.